Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Even if you don't believe in the Antichrist, world government, God, the devil, it is a union archetype that is real, whether it's not real or not. You understand that? If groups of humans and organizations take on things that could only be described as purely satanic, purely destructive, they exist. They are manifest. So the debate all ends. And the globalists believe they're setting up a 10-kingdom, that's what the UN and UNESCO calls it, Club of Rome, planetary world government with a world religion, the whole 9 yards. It's really a counterfeit New Age. See, every major symbol, the New Age, the all-seeing eye, everything has been the swastika. It's all been expropriated. All these archetypal important symbols that just belong to the universe, that belong to God's creation, that are there and true and resonate with us, have been taken by the enemy and made their symbols. I don't want to get too esoteric or sophisticated here. Not that folks out there aren't smarter than I in many cases. It's just that we're entering a great time of crisis. The world is blowing up, as Defense Secretary Hagel said 2 weeks ago. Now, a month ago, Obama's press secretary came out and proclaimed the age of tranquility thanks to Barack H. Obama. I mean, I'm not kidding. You can pull that up. I just can't make this stuff up. The world is beginning to be set on fire. I'm saying it was an arsonist. I'm telling you where it's coming from. Now, you can go check out what I'm claiming and find out it's true, or you can just sit there and say, oh, conspiracy theorist, as the cop-out to ignore reality. And it doesn't mean that I don't see through a rose-colored darkly, to quote the Bible. All of us are distorted. It's part of our beauty. What's that Japanese term for things that are so incredibly beautiful but have some flaw that makes them even more beautiful? The older I get, the more I realize what great wisdom that is. So we'll give the phone number out when we come back, and I've got some other news I want to hit about Islamic State, about Obama golfing while CIA runs ISIS plans, U.S. strike, the latest on Ferguson, the latest on the economy, the latest on politics. We've got some clips here. Democratic politician says grant illegals amnesty. In fact, let's just cue that up now. Or they'll become terrorists. Yeah. And don't cut the NSA's funding or terrorists will blow you up. Or let us have your guns or terrorists will blow you up. Or let us have your guns and accept Obamacare, we'll call you racist. We'll engage in terrorism. We'll terrorize you. That's the definition of terrorism. Just the whole world's collapsing. We're totally bankrupt. Oh, let's just have 30 million more illegals here. And then I was reading where it's bankrupting schools across the country where they're going basically Spanish only, Spanish immersion. I'm not against Spanish, but it's not the global language. And if you don't teach these kids English, they will be a permanent political bloc under the control of the Ford Foundation, El Jefe, Spanish speakers, which is the whole point. English is a Mongol language. I don't mean actual Mongols like the Huns. It is not a real language in the classic original thing like Latin or Chinese or the Germanic languages. It is a mix of Latin and Germanic languages going back 1,000 years ago, and now every other language, it attaches, it grows. It is the global language. It is officially the world language. If humans don't get replaced with machines, then we launch space bases in the future. If we're still using words and things are still written, baby, it's going to be in English. You disadvantage these children. No, now the English language itself is racist, you have to understand. No, the politicians don't want you being able to communicate with people. I'm all for learning Spanish, by the way. I'm all for learning. Like, that's the language, if you live in the United States, you should learn. The first one you should learn. You're at a disadvantage not knowing Spanish. And you're at a disadvantage not knowing English, no matter where you are in the world. Number one thing you can do for your child, if you want them to get ahead in the world, it's not just me, all the top educators, get them to learn to speak English and get them to learn how to dress nice, shake hands, have a sparkle in their eye, and be honorable. Because in business, people are looking for folks that don't stab them in the back. We'll be back.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.
KLN, Los Angeles. Clone Radio. We play the songs that sound more like everyone else than anyone else. Clone.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. The Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns.
I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man.
The answer to 1984 is 1776. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
I want to get your take on the earthquake. I want to get your take on ISIS. I want to get your take on everything we've been breaking down so far. Coming up in the final segment tonight, I'll break down the literal mind control that is gangster, hip-hop, cop killer, thug, rap. With Suge Knight being shot, the wages of sin are death. Those that live by the sword die by the sword. That is coming up in the final segment today. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-2539. We're live on this Sunday broadcast, 24th day of August. Again, that number, 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. Different number than the weekday show that's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. That's all run by the network, and they pipe the calls through here. Because that goes back to 1997 when I would broadcast from home in my own little studio, and they would feed me the calls like every day was a remote. We still do it that way. But on the Sunday, it's all produced right here in-house. Okay, where to start in this segment? So I want to get to news I haven't covered yet, then take your calls coming up in the next few segments after that. I already mentioned this, but let me just go over the headlines themselves, unless you doubt me. Last year, John Kerry, and we should tomorrow on the show dig up those clips. We could even probably do it today, of Kerry saying, we must attack Syria right now or Assad will nerve gas America. Remember that? It was like blaming Saddam for 9/11. You can say what you want about Saddam Hussein. It had nothing to do with it. It was Saudi Arabia. That was where the people came from on record. It's Saudi Arabia behind ISIS and IS and Al-Qaeda right now. Our big, precious, darling, sweet cake ally, who literally grease half of Congress and most of the state governors as well, and legislatures. And so they're running around all over Syria murdering people. They're the main force that started the Civil War almost 4 years ago. Our government gives them all these weapons. It becomes a big scandal because our own military and our own CIA, military is usually pretty moral because they're compartmentalized. The CIA and others, there was even balking there and in the Joint Chiefs in openly joining with Al-Qaeda, openly turning Syria over. And the issue was the military knew they couldn't get away with it. We covered all that at the time last year. Rand Paul and others came out and talked about we shouldn't be Al-Qaeda's Air Force. So IS then went into Iraq and has taken about a third of the country. They've got a deal to split the country in 3 parts with Saudi Arabia, the Kurds, and, of course, Iran. But ISIS is going for broke. They're now double-crossing that deal. Saudi Arabia is double-crossing that deal. They're very mad that a deal's been made behind the scenes with Iran to de-escalate things. And Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, don't believe me, I'm not even a big critic of Israel. I'm not against Israel. I get criticized for not being anti-Israel. But it was in the Jerusalem Post. Netanyahu said ISIS might be good. A good thing for the Middle East. Yeah, destabilize, have all the Arabs kill each other. Notice ISIS doesn't say they're going to attack Israel. Of course, they will someday. This is so sick. This is so evil. Just like our country's working with al-Qaeda. It's not the American people that are doing it. It's not the Israeli people that are doing it. It's the sick leadership we have. And the decision that was made above our government and above Israel's government, up there in the military-industrial complex and the big banking combine, that this destabilization is what they want to bring in their world government. Well, if you go back to last year, and they've got the quotes here in the Washington Post, everybody remembers it. Putin said, you are turning Syria over to people that will chop off in fact, the headline was, Putin says, don't turn Syria over to people that are animals. Don't turn Syria over to Satanists who eat hearts. Type in Vladimir Putin, don't turn Syria over to people that are cannibals. That was the actual headline. But then he said all that in his speech. Putin, don't hand Syria over to monsters that are cannibals was the exact quote. And that'll give us the exact date. But here it is in the Washington Post. They don't give him that much credit, just my memory does. Was Putin right about Syria? And they go on to ask the question, oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. No, see, the establishment's scared now because they don't control the media anymore. They thought they did. They just ignore the real media. DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com, WorldNet Daily, stuff like that. They ignore that. And so the whole world learned that our government's funding al-Qaeda. The whole world learned about what was really going on and what was really happening. And so now the world knows our government's funding al-Qaeda in Libya, in Jordan, in Egypt, and it's causing major, major, major problems for the establishment. So they're bombing a few artillery pieces and a few Toyota trucks with nobody in them. They're acting like they're fighting them. They're acting like they want to send troops there to go after them, and they'll go after some little faction group of it or whatever. But now ISIS is so out of control, they're not following orders, so maybe ISIS has to be dealt with. See, that's what's so wrong with this Machiavellian view. When everybody starts stabbing everybody in the back, when everybody starts cheating each other, then there's no stability even for corrupt elites. There's a reason smart elites that are even evil like to not double deal and like stability. It's because they want to survive. They want to be smart. They want to cut the cream off the top of a successful society. They don't want to be a third world imploded pit. But the globalists politically so want to dominate moral Western culture, and they want to extinguish it because chivalry and free market is such a threat to their monopoly fascist system that they want to extinct it forever and believe they'll then bring some golden age utopia in later. That's what the Rand Corporation, all of them say. That's not going to happen. You turn loose these forces that you are messing with, these titans, you will destroy the planet. You can't use some Rothschild model from the Napoleonic Wars financing all 3 sides and then both sides when it went from 3 to 2. You will not get rich and powerful out of this. You will not control everything. To the Rothschilds, you've got some weird score to settle with the West because you don't feel like you were accepted 300 years ago and all this other craziness. You're going to blow the planet up, you lunatics. And I know you're probably not going to listen to me as globalist. The Queen of England, the Dutch royalty, all of you. Bunch of inbred nuts. But your minions and the military and the Joint Chiefs and Interpol. Interpol's head came out and said, arm the general public in Europe to stop radical Muslim attacks a few months ago. I'm seeing signs everywhere throughout the power structure that people don't want to ruin and wreck society and drive it off a cliff. Most people serving the system aren't even evil. They were compartmentalized and lazy and just want to get along. But now they realize the New World Order is not going to let them get along. The New World Order is going to bring in tyranny. So here's some of the headlines. And during the break, I'm going to pull up that